The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. It's day 2, Big Ten Media Days, as we get things rolling here at Lucas Oil Stadium. You can find us and follow us on Twitter at HVarsity Radio. Like and subscribe. Hail Varsity YouTube channel, all the video, all the great Big Ten Media Day content, and, of course, throughout the season. You can catch up on interviews and podcasts with us and friends at Hurrdat Sports with Damon and Ravi. Elijah, been a really good day today, all Husker themed today with the Big Red taking over Indianapolis. We'll spend a few minutes here, and then our sit-down. Coach Rhule was just incredible with us. He's always fantastic. Great for Coach Rhule, too, to get a shot in with Pat McAfee. That interview was awesome. But Rhule, and big thanks to Keith Mann and Seamus for making it happen today. So great access to Nebraska. Matt Rhule in just a few minutes. Scott Dochterman from The Athletic. Scott will join us. We'll talk Big Red. We'll talk Iowa and implications. Isaac Gifford will join us. We'll hear from Kirk Herbstreit. Thoughts on Matt Rhule and Dylan Raiola. Damon Benning gets us going in hour 2 of Hurrdat Sports and, of course, the Husker Network. Ty Robinson and Ben Scott also check out. And then we'll also try and get you a little bit more from Matt Rhule and Pat McAfee. 489-1240 or 800-825-5865. Troy Dannon, too, on the roadie, Elijah. And Troy Dannon really kind of laying out some wait and see, but things you're expecting to take shape and form at Memorial Stadium. Yes, on grass, but no tight timeline for 2026. You look at chairbacks going in, you talk infrastructure, you talk beer, you talk NIL. All that becomes real easy, or much easier if you're winning on the field. And that was a big time theme we'll hear from Matt Rhule coming up here, is that confidence factor and just going and doing it and not worrying so darn much. And that worry and fear of failure has been a real thing. It's been prevalent in the minds of really some talented football players. It's prevented things from happening. You've had a lot of lessons, if you're Nebraska here, to learn from. What do you do with those lessons from a year ago, and how do you handle that success? And
yeah, we're going to get into that with some of the players today, with Ty, with Gifford, with Ben Scott, all these guys gracious enough to give us a few minutes of their time a little bit earlier, making the rounds through Radio Row. So we'll kind of, I think we asked each of them kind of in their own way what that turn means to them. Matt Rhule is going to get into that here in just a moment. But while we're talking amenities and upgrades to Memorial Stadium, you talk about the beer, the seat backs, South Stadium. Let's not forget, I think, hookah lounge, gambling den, dispensary. The options are endless, but it's only once you start winning, Schmidt. You're right.
Just make it a candy store of sin taxes to help with property taxes.
Bang.
A one-stop shop.
Schmidt for governor.
A one-stop shop of sin tax with a nonprofit entity.
That's a platform right there, Schmidt.
I got the hair to run for office, but that's about it.
Also, while we're talking Big Ten Media Days today, obviously we're going to get into a whole bunch of Husker content here. You have Deshaun Foster, his opening statement making the rounds. I will say, credit to him.
It's trending. UCLA's trending on Big Ten Media Day Wednesday. Who'd have thought?
Credit to him. At least he made an opening statement, unlike some coaches.
You know what? Some coaches caught hell for not making an opening statement, and then the alternative is to make that opening statement and have it bomb. There's no such thing as bad publicity. I kid. There is.
Well,
but again, UCLA's trending on Big Ten Media Day, and USC isn't.
No, I'm with you in terms of there's no such thing as bad publicity. In terms of it's all about how you handle it. Like, you got the UCLA name out there. You got the brand out there. Was it great for you? No, but it's all about how you handle it and what your response is. You can always turn what could be bad publicity into good publicity, and I actually fully agree with you on that point.
But there's also the, oh, my God, that's your head coach factor. When others are invading LA to recruit.
It's nice from Nebraska's point of view that the, oh my God, that's your head coach isn't talking about Nebraska's head coach, because Matt Rhule made a fantastic first impression. We're only about 60 seconds away from getting caught up with him, his chat with us this morning, but made a great impression not only with the local media at the big stage and also on Pat McAfee today. He was just impressive all around. It was one of those 10 out of 10 days from Matt Rhule, getting up and preaching as he does.
Let's get to Matt Rhule, our sit-down here. Big Ten Media Days, Coach Rhule here with us on Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Coach, thanks for spending some time with us and jumping in on Radio Row. How's Indy treated you so far?
So far, so good, man. Little St. Elmo's.
It's a good spot.
It's a great spot. I challenged the guys to see who could eat the cocktail sauce the fastest, and they weren't very impressive.
We had a newbie last night that had never tried the sauce. And I just missed his final goal line stand reaction of the sauce getting him. And he just lost it and about fell out of his chair. But it hurts so good, I guess is the best way to put it.
Exactly right.
Coach, let's talk football for 2 seconds here. And an all-time question. Elijah and I were talking about this. You're starting an all-time team. Are you going to go LT or Reggie White on defense?
LT.
Next question.
Well,
Dumb question.
I had a pet name. I named my pet LT at one point. So,
what was your pet?
Well, it was a little baby iguana I had in college. I'm a Lawrence Taylor fan. I love Reggie White. There's not two you could have made me. There's not another person you could have made me think twice for a second. But yeah,
it's LT.
Well, let's flip it around here and go with the offensive line side of things. Then, if you're just picking an all-time offensive lineman to build your offensive line around, that foundational piece, who are you picking?
Trent Williams.
Okay.
Yeah, Trent Williams. I mean, I watched him live at direct. He's the best. He's the best.
What possessed you to get an iguana?
I was trying to be cool in college, before our social media and cell phones, hey, I do have a pet iguana.
That's all right. Not for me. That's okay. Matt Rhule's with us here, Radio Row, Hail Varsity Radio. So let's talk about the cool factor, buzz around Nebraska, year two. And I'm interested here with just the expectations and when we talk about Nebraska, your thoughts as you move forward here with this second year and some of the noise outside.
Well, I don't hear too much of the noise. I mean, I'll say this. I expect us to be good. I expect us to be good. I expect us to be better than we were last year. I thought last year we had a great defense at times. I thought we had really good special teams. Now, not always kicking. Not when I say special teams, I mean coverage, blocking punts, faking a punt, scoring a touchdown. I expect our young kicker to take another step. Tristan's going to take another step this year. I mean, coming in as a freshman, that's a hard thing to do, and I think he did a great job, but he'll take a step. And then, we have to be better on offense. And I thought we made a ton of progress this spring, and based on everything I see this summer, and I'm not involved too much, but they're working their tails off. So I don't want to get to those close games in the fourth quarter and be like, oh man, it's a close game. I want the first game to be close in the fourth quarter. I want us to master this. I want us to attack being great in the fourth quarter. So I expect us to be good.
Coach, you hear a lot of other coaches say that you don't truly know what you have with your team until the first game, until you're playing guys wearing a different colored jersey. And obviously you can get a good idea of what your team is, but until you get that first real test, you're not truly going to know. But I do want to get your thoughts on what you're excited to learn about this team as you progress through the rigors of fall camp.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the one benefit we have is we do know that we have a really good defense. So we know that, when you're blocking Jamari or you're blocking Ty or Nash, that's one of the better D-lines in the country. And so we know that when you're running a go ball against Tommy Hill, that you're playing against one of the best players in the country. So I think year one to year two does provide us some context. But I'm excited. I'm excited for guys. Everyone's going to ask me about competitions, like who's going to start here. I'm excited to see guys show the development that they've made, show the progress they've made. Because I'm just telling you, man, we dream of playing 16 games. We dream of playing on January 20th. And so to do that, it's going to there might be guys that don't even get invited to camp that are playing by the end of the year. There are guys that last year that thought, Jalen Lloyd thought he was going to redshirt probably last year. And next thing you know, he's catching a touchdown against Iowa, to tie the game, or make it a close game. So I want to see just everyone show what they have. But I do think our offense working against our defense does give us a semblance of, hey, we know how good we are on D.
Matt Rhule's with us here, Hail Varsity Radio in Indy. Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel. Coach, let's talk about mental toughness. And as you've had a chance to observe and talk to the team leaders, instill a culture, how do you feel about the guys between the years? I know it's a big question, but there are leaders on this football team. Where's the team's mental state?
Well, I think it's twofold. I think, that one part is resilience, just constantly coming back to the table. I think, whereas last year people were like, man, how did you handle losing those last four, all by 3 points or less? I was always kind of like, well, if there's one thing I learned, it's no matter how heartbreaking the game was, our guys came back the next day and came back the next week and battled to the very end. And so I know we're resilient. How we're going to handle success at some point, that remains to be seen. But handling adversity and handling the tough things, I know we can do. I think the next step for our guys is getting into those tight games and not having that, oh, here we go again mentality when something goes wrong. I mean, when something goes wrong, it's supposed to spur you on. It's supposed to make you angry and play a little bit harder and just lock you in. It's not supposed to have your energy dissipate. And so that's part that we have to work on, overcoming that fear of failure. Our players love our fans, and they don't want to let them down. And sometimes in not wanting to let them down, you don't play as well as you possibly could. So that's my job. We've got the first block tackled in terms of handling adversity. Now it's expecting to win and handling the adversity and still finding a way to win. That's our next job.
Coach, one of the things with handling adversity that I think you've hit on before is that brotherhood aspect within a team of playing for that guy next to you. And one of the things you did last year was stick the guys in the dorms for fall camp. Are you planning on bringing that back? You're going to be in the dorms yet again?
Yeah, we'll move into Selleck next Tuesday. So I'll move in, staff will move in. Some of our auxiliary staff, they're a little bougie. They won't do it probably, but the coaches will, and I'll be there. So, at the end of the day, life's all about connection. And we find ourselves now more than ever not connected to the people that are closest to us because we're connecting to someone on the phone somewhere else. So I can't say this will solve all the problems, but at least that's a tradition. At least it's something in the spring I heard guys complaining about. So that makes me feel good that we're doing something that they'll probably remember when they're 60 or 70.
Are you planning on getting any of the guys in the new NCAA football game once you move into the dorms?
That's all I hear about. My son, I haven't seen my son for like 3 days.
Same.
Downstairs playing. So I have a feeling I'll have to outlaw the game at some point. Hey, study your own plays. I know you guys all know how to run. Whatever the play's called on NCAA, but I need you to know our plays.
Matt Rhule's with us, a couple more minutes, Hail Varsity Radio. So one thing that you've touched on, and I want to get your feel, is getting home to the opposing quarterback with four-man heat versus blitzing. Is that an area you think or anticipate the defense stepping up in this year? I
do. I think they did a great job all spring of improving that. Really, taking things to the next level in terms of the way you rush. I mean, there's both rushing, hey, I need to beat this guy, but, sometimes they slide to you, there's two to you, and Terrence taking some more advanced techniques and sort of reading some things that I'm excited about. So, we're going to blitz. We're going to be aggressive. That's who we are. But when the time comes, I also want to get home with four. And that doesn't always mean sacks. Sometimes it just means we force you to throw it a little bit earlier. We tip a ball and the ball gets picked off. We've talked a lot about turning the ball over. But, man, we got to take the ball away. And those are the things I'm anxious for.
Coach, a thought on your quarterbacks, as a lot is expected. They'll be the driver in helping make that offense make a jump. You got an experienced linebacker, but what are you hearing about your quarterbacks here as you head into camp?
I'm excited for them to have a chance to showcase everything that they've done. They've worked hard in the spring, and I think they all got better in the spring, and they've worked hard this summer. So I'm excited to see them get into camp, and I want to see them compete, not because I want to see who gets the job. I want to see them compete so I can see the greatness that each one brings. And so they all bring something different to the table. You can play a little differently. I think for us as coaches, one of our jobs is not just sit there and be like, who's the starter? It's to say, hey, okay, when When Danny's in, hey, these are the plays he excels at. When Heinrich's in, these are the things we can do. When Dillon's in, these are the things that we can do. Because I think we all know in college football, man, at some point, whoever you deem number one is going to come out, and number two is going to go in. And I think the recruiting class we had last year at quarterback has set us up to have a quarterback room that's as deep as any in the country. Mixing those guys in with Heinrich.
And Coach, when you talk about some of these young quarterbacks you've brought in, a young quarterback's best friend, really any quarterback's best friend, is a solid rushing attack. It makes things so much easier for them. What do you want to see from your offensive line, from your running backs this year? I know they work in tandem. It's a 1-2 punch. The offensive line has to trust the running back, and the running back has to trust the offensive line. What do you want to see from your rushing attack this year?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be able to run the ball. I don't know what we finished last year, second, third, fourth, something like that in the league. Now, part of that was, we also ran the quarterback a bunch, and so we'd only do that really with Heinrich. But the opposite of that is because the passing game and really our passing efficiency was so low last year. I mean, we were running the ball into uphill boxes. We were running the ball into blitzes. And what we have now is we have, skill on the outside, three quarterbacks who can, if you pressure us, they can go out there and throw the ball to Isaiah Nair on a one-on-one. They can get the ball to Jalen, on a one-on-one, and just takes one missed tackle. And when you look at the teams that score a bunch of points, it's that run-pass mix, that balance, that, hey, if you want to blitz us, now we might be throwing the ball and you might be in trouble. So that's the growth. I think we'll be able to run the football, and I think we'll run it into better boxes this year if our passing game is what I hope it is.
Matt Rhule with us here at Hail Varsity. Coach, good to see you. Best part of your golf game as we say goodbye.
What's the best part of my golf game?
Right now.
The 19th hole.
All right. Well done. Take care, Coach.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point at you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Scott Dochterman with us from The Athletic. All things Big Ten. Scott, good to see you, man. Made the roadie east. How you been?
Oh, it's been great, man. It's always fun when you get to Big Ten Media Days. It kind of means summer's over, but, it's also the best time of year when we're talking football.
It is. And I want to get your take on Iowa real quick, and just a lot of folks looking at their schedule saying, all right, could be double-digit wins, could be a playoff team. What's your thought on just where their offense goes with new coordinator and a quarterback that's won before?
Yeah, I've seen these seasons before, and they could either go 11-1 or 7-5. Lose all the close games or win them. And I think with this offense, with Tim Lester now as the offensive coordinator, they've incorporated quite a few changes to the offense. It's more hands off from Kirk Ferentz. He's not, even the verbiage, it's completely changed. Kirk's even said, it's been kind of tough for me to stand back and watch this happen. But offensively, they're healthier along the front, which will be helpful. They have 155 career starts. Caden McNamara now is healthy. He's been working throughout the summer. Was cleared in June. So he's kind of the one that's putting all the practices together. So that's a good thing. And he's kind of been a fiery leader anyway in his career, and he certainly is now. And, in year 6, this is it for him. And they've got a really good running game. And then a tight end, I think they have one of the best in the country personally, and Luke Lachey. I think he's fantastic. But receivers an issue. I think this is capable of being decent to average, and I'm just being realistic. I'm not going to say, they could be great. I think they could be good enough. And I think with their defense and combined with the schedule, they're playing Washington this year, not last year. They're playing Michigan State, not Michigan. Teams like that, I think they're more than capable of being in every game, save for maybe the one at Ohio State.
Scott, the hallmark for success for the Iowa offense for years and years, it's felt like, has been time of possession, where if Iowa wins the time of possession battle, chances are they're going to win the football game. That's kind of been one of the things you monitor with their offense. Does that change at all in 2024, or is that still going to be the benchmark for success, is win that time of possession battle, and that defense gives them a great chance to win?
I think if they're better at it, for sure. I mean, the two things, you said, time of possession is important with them. I mean, yards per carry, but really one of the key indicators for them winning and losing over the last 9 years or so has been if they hit the 100-yard barrier. And it's been kind of odd the last few years because that hasn't really been a factor because they haven't hit it very often. And I think if they can sustain drives, if they can churn some of these possessions, then I think it will matter significantly for them. I mean, one of the things with their defense last year, they led the nation in yards per play defensively, but they also had 196 more snaps than number 2, which is Penn State. It's hard to win that way. And, as you guys saw firsthand last year, I mean, you have to be very, very fortunate to pull these games off, which are an interception with 15 seconds left and a field goal by the backup field goal kicker on the game's final play to pull these games out. It's not going to work that way every year. It goes the other direction.
Scott Dochterman with us here from The Athletic, talking some Iowa football. That's part of the Iowa culture, though, is making plays, finding a way, special teams, defensive play, big kick or a completion or a counter that pops, right? So what is it about Kirk and staff that makes it happen more times than not? They're not perfect in one-score games, but, man, they're really hard. I don't think he's got a peer in the league when it comes to just how he's able to get his guys to perform and be in the right spot most of the time.
They're technically sound. We all know that. Their response to adversity is off the charts. They are very mentally tough. I mean, most of them are 3-star guys. A lot of them are from small-town Iowa or Chicago or whatever, and they've been overlooked. And then they build them up in this tough fashion. So when it gets to crunch time, they're there. They're going to fight you. They're going to fist fight you all the way to the end, and that includes coming up with the key play at the right time because they're coached hard, and that's the way they feel, and that's why they've been responsive. They don't make mistakes usually that beat them. Last year was an aberration in that the quarterback play was so bad that it almost beat them, and in fact it did against Minnesota. But by and large, that don't make the mistakes. Don't give your opponent opportunities. We've got a great defense, and of course punter, and that enabled them to pull out a lot of these wins. And I think that's kind of been the hallmark or the benchmark of the Ferentz era in many of these years.
Well, kidding, not kidding here. How does Iowa replace their punter this year? Is Taylor's off? He's out of eligibility. Kidding, not kidding. It's an important part of Iowa.
Hey, we have those shirts. Punting is winning from Reagan, and I actually bought one that was navy and orange because I'm a Bears fan, and now he's a Bear. So, I couldn't buy one when he was at Iowa City. But you can't just simply replace him. He's not Caitlin Clark, but in football terms and punting terms, he's pretty close to that. So I think to put him out there, they've got Reese Dakin is his name, and he's a true freshman. He's from Australia, and that's where they went. And this is one of the strange recruiting stories maybe of the off season, that the number one punter in the country was an hour south of Iowa City in Mediapolis, Iowa. And and he wanted to go to Iowa. He grew up an Iowa fan. His dad was on the message boards and everything. Because of style, they chose not to recruit him. He went to Georgia, and instead they went all the way around the world to Pro Kick Australia because they liked the style and the way that obviously Torrey kicked, but that type, they were able to gear their coverage units around that, and it's been really successful for them, obviously. So I don't know if he'll punt like Torrey, but he'll be a factor.
Scott Dochterman with us, Hail Varsity Radio here at Lucas Oil Stadium. Day one, Big Ten Media Days, talking the Hawkeyes. Let's talk Nebraska. And what's your outlook on Nebraska and the win total, right around 7.5 with our friends in the desert? What do you think of year 2 for Rhule?
I think this is going to be a really good year. I do think this is the year there's a breakthrough and I'm not saying 11 wins and go to the playoff, but I think simply that they're going to win more games than they don't and get to a bowl game to start. But I like the way the defense was really good last year, and the offense was, if it wasn't for Iowa's ineptitude, that Nebraska's ineptitude would have been more showcased, I think. But, when you have Dylan Raiola, if he's the starter, I assume that he probably will be, or he'll play a lot early on.
Good assumption.
Yeah, thanks. But, if he can make plays and make people excited, and if the offense doesn't make mistakes, which has been just killers all these years. I mean, you look at all those one-score losses, and each one of them, yeah, and you guys can point to them way more than I, but it's like, oh, well, there's this play, and how did this happen? If they can limit that, this is going to be a very competitive program for upper third of the Big Ten, and then if Dylan Raiola can make plays in critical moments, and you look at the schedule, this could be a team that's really very competitive, possibly on the periphery of a playoff. But it's going to come down to the last couple of games of the season: Wisconsin and Iowa, and then of course there's Ohio State on there too. But overall, I think there's a lot to like about Nebraska right now.
Scott Dochterman's with us here from The Athletic, and Scott, looking ahead here a little bit. Black Friday, it's going to be a night game at Kinnick. I've had the pleasure of visiting Kinnick a couple times. I've never been out to Kinnick for a night game. Is the voodoo that surrounds a night game at Kinnick real? What's your take there? What should we expect when we're in Iowa City on Black Friday?
I look forward to this one, honestly, because I felt like all these years there is a rivalry, no question. But I think that neither team has been able to showcase their stadium, their fan base, because it's the day after Thanksgiving. A lot of times, especially when it's 11 a.m., it's like everybody's got kind of a turkey hangover, and it's like, well, it's kind of been sleepy. I mean, even though there have been impactful games, but now at night, I think people are going to be pretty raucous. There's going to be tailgating all day. That's going to get an environment there. And one of the things about Kinnick Stadium after dark is that Iowa has done a really good job against really good teams at night, at home. And that, they're the only team from the West to beat every team from the East over that 10-year block. And a lot of that is they drag that team down. And the fans are so close to the stadium. And when big plays happen, that it can be tough to bounce back against them. And so I don't know what that means for that game at that time. It would be great if it was, say, 9-2 versus 9-2 and outside chance at a playoff, and you're looking at some important part of the game, the season for both teams. But likewise, I think it's a different atmosphere, and I'm excited to see it because I think it could jolt this into a little bit different direction.
It's got a team that we have circled that it could be that third team into the playoff for the Big Ten, as we presume Ohio State and Oregon get there. We'll get you out on this, and thanks for coming by. What's your temperature on Penn State and James Franklin this season?
I think this is a huge season for James Franklin because they do have all the pieces to get to the playoff. And if there was a 12-team playoff in place, they would be able to get in a few times over the last 7-8 years. And unfortunately for them, they've been fifth, they've been seventh. They've missed out on winning those big games. I think they need to win them. I mean, last year, people kind of were down on Drew Aller, but, he had 25 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He just didn't perform against Michigan and Ohio State, which Michigan won the national title, and Ohio State was better than they were. I think this year, at some point, you've got to break through. And that fan base right now is kind of on edge about this. And with Drew Aller, with that running back combination, with that defense, with Abdul Carter, who, may be their best defender since Micah Parsons, to me, you got to break through. Now, that doesn't mean win the Big Ten championship, but that does mean get to the playoff. And if they don't get to the playoff, if they're in the Citrus Bowl or what bowl is it now, ReliaQuest Bowl,
it's a New Year's Six instead of a playoff.
Yeah,
right? that type of deal.
Yeah, if they're in a bowl game instead of the playoff, then I could see just a major uproar in Unhappy Valley.
Scott Dochterman with The Athletic. Scott, good to see you.
Yeah,
we'll check in with you again. You're on Hail Varsity live at Lucas Oil Stadium.
So that's Scott Dochterman, Iowa beat writer with The Athletic, with us on Hail Varsity Radio. Plenty more coming up in this show as we'll talk with Lincoln Southeast standout, now Husker standout, black shirt, Isaac Gifford. We got Damon Benning, Ty Robinson, and Ben Scott all coming your way in hour 2. But before I forget, let's get you a quick belated look at the Hail Varsity Radio starting 5 today as Justin was first in, Broderick gets in second. We have Mark coming in at number 3 in the Hail Varsity Radio starting 5. Jimmy and Jeff Snitley round out the starting 5. We got Crew first off the bench, the 6th man of the day. Crew down in Arizona. Eat Beef and Weston come in 7th and 8th respectively. Crazy Spider Adventures, the other Dave, Andrew, and the real Matthew also all in today. And let's not forget about KG, Red Knight, and NASCAR Eric. So plenty of names in the Hail Varsity Radio Starting Five. Again, you can always get into the Starting Five, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, to search up Hail Varsity at 4 o'clock. Hop in the live stream and make your voice heard in our live chat. Coming your way after the break, it's Husker at Blackshirt, Isaac Gifford with us here on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. Hail Varsity continues here. Big Ten Media Days, Lucas Oil Field. Technically, we're in the red zone still. We haven't moved location. Black shirt defender Isaac Gifford with us, the pride of Lincoln Southeast and beyond. Isaac, good to spend some time with you. Thanks for a few minutes.
Yeah, it's awesome being on here.
Well, it's good to see you again. And Elijah and I were talking about just watching your career, covering you at Southeast on the radio, and then seeing you do great things in Lincoln. Being asked to represent your mates here in Indy, great honor, or yay, I get to go talk to the media for 8 hours?
Yeah, my personality, I'm not a big media guy, right?
But you're learning.
But I'm learning. I'm taking steps. Honestly, it's an honor to be here. I'm excited they picked me to come out here and represent the team. Even though I'm not a big media guy, but I'll do my job.
So, did anyone help you with the outfit or with the hair care as you were getting ready for Big Ten Media Days?
Oh, yeah. Well, I couldn't wear the Gary Michael suit because I had a little malfunction. Yeah. So, but luckily I have a guy at State and Liberty, Trey Foster, another Southeast guy. He hooked me up with a pretty sweet suit, so I was able to. It was my backup, and it works great.
Okay. So.
I was just going to say, Isaac, the hair care, you got to take us through it because the locks are looking luscious right now. Joe Burrow's been in the news for shaving it.
God.
You don't look like you're set to shave it.
Joe's hair?
He looks like Slim Shady, and I kind of like it. I'm not going to lie, I like it. No, I don't do a whole lot for my hair, the regular shampoo, conditioner, and that's about it. I don't do a whole lot.
Wow. Should we get back to football, or should we just keep grooming 101 going? But Isaac Gifford with us here on Hail Varsity Big Ten Media Days. So, Isaac, let's talk about this defense. Let's talk about your voice on the defense in that locker room.
We got a lot of returners coming back, and a lot of old guys, a lot of experienced guys coming back. It's pretty exciting. Got some new guys coming in, and some linebackers. John and Buddha Wright are leading the linebacker crew. You got T-Rob up front and Nash, Jamari. You got some DBs, Tommy, me, Marquise Buford. You got Malcolm. You got a lot of guys. Deshaun Singleton's going to be healthy, so it's pretty exciting.
Isaac, when you talk about those returners, yourself included, you had a big decision to make around Christmas time. Take us back to that decision to come back. Everyone obviously saw the video with you and Bryce announcing that you were going to be back, but there's a lot that goes into those decisions. I'm sure it wasn't easy. What was weighing on you during that time, and what ultimately brought you back?
Yeah, I had a lot of things on my mind in that couple of weeks where I took off to decide. But really, it was just what kind of legacy I wanted to leave at Nebraska, and what I wanted for myself in the next year if I was to stay. I didn't feel ready to leave Nebraska. It didn't feel right. I wanted to see it grow, and I felt growth in that first year, and I wanted to build on top of that.
Isaac, when we talk about that growth and that path to success, the mental toughness part of football is very real, and it tests you.
Yeah.
At the beginning of a game and for sure in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Do you feel like this team's ready to get over that hump in tight moments? Because that's the name of the game in the Big Ten and even in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I do. I feel we're ready to get over that hump. I think you can feel it in the locker room. Guys are biting at the bit to get going. There's no holding back with these guys on this team. Guys are ready to fire and not stop.
No blink?
No blink.
Okay.
So what goes into that, do you think, in terms of building that confidence through the offseason? Matt Rhule talked a little bit about the brotherhood and the confidence that comes from that. What is your take on how you take a close loss and turn it into a close win?
For me, it's like to get that locker room to have that certain bond is doing hard stuff, right? And then also getting off the field and being with each other, which I think this team has done a great job with. We've done a lot of hard shit in the winter and the summer. We pride ourselves in hard work. Every week is going to suck, and you're going to have moments where you don't want to do it. But for me, I look to the guys next to me at my locker. I'm like, well, IGC's getting ready to go. I know he's hurting. I'm hurting too. Screw it. Let's go work. And then it's after we're going to go hang out and play video games. So when you get that bond, it just creates a certain confidence in each other, right? You know those guys are going to do their job and then I'm going to do mine. So there's been a lot of that this summer, and it's pretty exciting.
The process of building that trust, did you get impatient with it, or were you able, as you've gotten older and been around this game a while in this program, were you able to be more mature, patient? Those attributes, were they able to kind of come forward, or was that not?
Yeah, I'm not a super patient person.
Good on you.
Hence my personality, but. Over the years I've had to learn that it comes with time, obviously, and work, and I know I harp on guys and I get on them pretty quick, and I got a short fuse, but I do it because I know it's just going to make them better, and that's how I feel about myself. But I definitely feel the experience coming into this 5th year, just in the way I think about things.
How's your health? I know you won't say anything, so I'm going to say it. You were dinged towards the end of the year, and you still gutted it out. How's this 2024 campaign look here health-wise for you?
Yeah, I feel good. I feel really good. I had my things going into the end of the year last year. And
it sucks, doesn't it?
Oh, it's terrible, but that's football. You don't get through a season without having some kind of thing going on or some lingering injury. So, but it is what it is. I feel good now. My body feels great, so it feels good.
Isaac Gifford with us here on Hail Varsity Radio, a fellow Southeast Knight. And Isaac, you talked a little bit about leaving a legacy, that being part of your decision to come back to Nebraska. If we go way back, it was your freshman year at Southeast. That was my senior year at Southeast. And as I think back...
Look at him pulling the rank.
Just saying, as I look back, and I don't mean this with any offense, you weren't Isaac, you were Luke's little brother to the upperclassmen at the time. Then you come to Nebraska, and that's the story in recruiting as well. You're Luke's little brother. And I'm going to give you a chance to respond to that. As you build your own legacy, what has it been like for you to try to work out from your brother's shadow and be your own person at Nebraska?
Yeah, it's me and Luke have had very different careers. And even in high school, we were different. Well, high school, we were kind of the same position, same number, whatever. But here in Nebraska, it's just been different. We've both gone through coaching changes, but I think it's different in the sense of where we've been playing and how much we've been playing. Luke didn't get a full 4 years. I got a full 4. But it's been tough, and it's just making. I don't know. It's because people do still call me Luke all the time. Not that it bothers me, but it's really a blessing to have a brother to lead me through, and somebody that I could watch. So it you could say making my own name or whatever, but I'm just doing my thing. If it comes, it comes, and I'm not going to worry about it.
Isaac Gifford with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. Big Ten Media Days, Isaac, we'll get you out on this, and thanks for the extended time. What did Coach Coop mean to you, and how's the connection been so far with Coach Butler?
Yeah, Coach Coop meant a lot to me. I think everybody knows that. He's had high praise of me, and I got high praise for him. It sucked to watch him go, but he's got to do his own thing. He's got stuff to do, and I respect that. And I'm excited for Coach Butler to come in here. I've talked to him quite a bit, and I think he's going to be a great fit for us. Obviously has a ton of experience, and it's exciting. He's going to bring a lot to the table.
What's his personality? Does it remind you of what?
Me.
Does it?
He's business. He's a straight business guy, and I love that.
Isaac, be good. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Rolling through hour 1 here on day 2 of Big Ten Media Days. Plenty of content that we brought you here in hour 1 as Schmidt and I have been working tirelessly both yesterday and today trying to get you some of the best interviews that we possibly can out at Media Days with all the access that we get out there. We've already heard this hour from the head man himself. Matt Rhule joined us. about 4:15 this hour to lead off the show. We also had Iowa beat writer for The Athletic, Scott Dochterman, with us, and we just heard from Husker defensive back Isaac Gifford, the black shirt, the pride of Lincoln Southeast, joined us on the show. It was fun. Schmidt being a Southeast grad, me being a Southeast grad, and Isaac being a Southeast grad. That might be the most Southeast grads ever in one radio appearance from Big Ten Media Days. So that's a fun little note there. Still plenty coming your way in hour two. Damon Benning joins us from Indy to lead off hour two. We'll also hear from Husker defensive lineman Ty Robinson, another fellow black shirt. And then to wrap up the show, we'll hear from Husker offensive lineman Ben Scott, the man in the middle, who calls all the protections for that Husker offensive line, a real leader for that group. He's going to join us at about 5:40. Before we get out of here this hour, though, plenty of content coming out of the Pat McAfee show today, as Pat had Matt Rhule on. He also had on Kirk Herbstreit, and that's where we're going to kick this off, as Kirk Herbstreit spent a little bit of time talking about Nebraska, talking about the Dylan Raiola impact. He's a guy who knows the Raiola family a little bit, and he dove into the kind of impact that he thinks Dylan Raiola, both coming to Nebraska and then getting on the field early, can have.
And he's a monster. You know, his dad, as you know, played in the NFL forever, played at Nebraska. He was a beast when he was at Nebraska. And, I couldn't believe this kid was verbal to Georgia and could have gone to any school in the country, probably name his number as far as NIL. I don't know if he was number one high school recruit, but if he wasn't, he was right there. And ends up, because of his dad's legacy and his family's history in Lincoln, he wants to be a part of getting this thing back up and going. And I think all you can do is salute a kid that could have done anything he wanted, gone to any school in the country, and he wanted to go to Nebraska, where they've had one winning season in like 10 years. So I think it says a lot about the family and how much his dad means to him. So wish him all the best, man. Like I said, if he wins that job, that'd be a heck of a story to see him get started early in his career.
Before we get out this hour, quick thought from Matt Rhule. Ooh, I think we might be out of time. That's tough. Maybe we'll get to this next hour, as we do have a little bit of open time in hour two for this as well. Matt Rhule spent some time in the Pat McAfee show, got into plenty. We'll get into his thoughts on Raiola, how Raiola has approached things since showing up on campus, and kind of where that quarterback battle lies, the importance of not just who the starter is going to end up being, but who some of those backup options are going to be. Rhule also got into his own fit with Nebraska now that he's spent about 18 months on the job, as well as the quiet confidence that he thinks this team is carrying this offseason, the importance of quiet confidence. So all of that coming your way from Matt Rhule a little bit later in the show. Again, if you missed anything in hour one, now it's Matt Rhule, Scott Dochterman, and Isaac Gifford. You can check out the show in podcast form, wherever you get podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon, all great places to start if you're just getting into the podcast world. Just search up Hail Varsity Radio. You can find the segments as well as the full show from today. Will be posted up shortly following the conclusion of the show. So that's where you can go if you missed anything. Still plenty more coming your way in hour two. I laid it out for you. Damon Benning, Ty Robinson, and Ben Scott, as they all sat down with Schmidt and myself out in Indy, Lucas Oil Stadium for Big Ten Media Days. I'll do it for hour one. We'll step aside, and when we return, Damon Benning joins us here on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Cornhead Lager.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back into it at Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Damon Benning, Husker great, of course, morning host along with Robbie. When we talk Hurrdat Sports, we've got DB cornered here. I'm kidding, my friend. We had such a fun talk before we jumped on here about weirdos we bumped into at Indy.
Yeah. Showing some signs, a few mannerisms over there. You're giving me some pause.
Few crawl spaces.
No, you look like that guy.
Elijah right now is rubbing his eyes, saying, "Whoops, we've had a bug hit this interview."
I thought you were kidding when you said this is where we're going to start the interview. I thought you were just making a little funny.
Well, Schmidt's such a natural. Anything is fair game. I mean, he can segue anything into a radio topic.
Well,
must be rough being good at your job.
Let's keep with the murder theme. The new Big Ten.
Yeah, Murderers Row. How about that, right? And since the time that I've been here until the time that we're talking, I've kind of gotten over myself. I started with the whole, you know what? Like, you don't have to toe the company line, and you don't have to be factoid. It doesn't have to be, so data-driven where you hit checkpoints in terms of your delivery. Like, have some fun, cheerlead a little bit. Like, love on the conference. Like, it's a tremendous conference with a Heisman favorite and star-studded secondaries across the conference and the top corner in the conference and tremendous running backs. Like, you have some fellas. Like, let's hear about the conference. But, I mean, I get it. It comes with a perception. And so by the end of this deal, especially after James Franklin spoke, I'm like, you know what? Okay, we're not going to champion our individual performances, and it just should be a celebration, right? Of
a lot of options to get behind in the Big Ten, but it's not.
I'm not saying we have to be the SEC, but at least it's fun.
Right. They're all right. We didn't beat them, so I guess we'll join them. The SEC mentality is from Athens to Stark Vegas, cheering for one another.
Yeah.
On
maybe Lanning will shake
game.
It up for us.
Oh, Lanning's he's good, man.
Yeah, I like him too. I do.
him.
I think he's fantastic, and I think he brings a little attitude, a little swag. I think he'll be just fine.
Well, Damon, I want to ask you a topic that we brought up yesterday on our show. Is Dan Lanning a choice to be the next villain of the Big Ten now that Harbaugh's gone? Because I think Harbaugh had that mantle until he goes off to the NFL. Who do you think the next villain of the Big Ten could be?
Well, I think it could. I mean, Lanning's a prime candidate because, he's not going to necessarily say all the things that are cookie cutter-esque. But the guy whose personality tends to be the most off-putting when he's pressed could be Lincoln Riley. Well, you heard it a little.
At him.
you heard it a little when he was at the podium, about some criticisms and conference play and what conference you're playing in. And he said, "Hey, listen, that's what you get when you're USC." And I was thinking, some other coaches that have probably felt that too. But I do like how you tried to rep the brand. But he comes across as a guy that won't be afraid to defend as opposed to absorb. So sometimes when you have those personality traits, people will pick a side, right?
Sure.
If they're not for you. So I think Lanning has the potential just because, he'll say the things that I think are the most authentic and could care as little about feelings as possible, not as much diplomacy. But I think Lincoln Riley is probably the most volatile in terms of a response you may get.
He is right there with the pressure cooker feel this season. James Franklin's done really well. I mean, if we're talking for playoff,
he was in a relatively good mood today. Were you surprised?
I think he knows he's got a loaded team. I think he's got a really good team, and he's not going to get C-blocked by Michigan and Ohio State. It's wide open for him.
Yeah, I thought, I'm sure he bristles up a little bit at Oregon supplanting them just right off the bat. And you're right, they should be able to get some stops. Defensively, they should be fantastic. I'm still not sure where I'm at with Aller. But
year 3, the guy should feel better. I mean, his TD to interception ratio is great.
They got to catch the ball better, too, I think, when you want to get vertical in the passing game. It's just not all on the delivery. But it's an interesting year for Penn State because you haven't won 8 games in the conference in 16. When you went 8-1, you've been 7-2, 7-2,
which is great.
It is. It's fantastic.
As good as the league's been.
But when you've become your own benchmark,
yes,
the scale has slid a little bit.
It's Damon Benning with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. David, let's talk Nebraska. We had a chance to sit down with Coach Rhule, and guys, just a treat to spend time around, all about football, but also important things off field. As you go into another season as lead analyst for Big Red Football, you're getting ready for camp as well. Yeah. Are you bullish as well with Nebraska and this breakthrough narrative?
I am. I'm extremely bullish. I like their depth. I like their camaraderie. The other dreaded C word, their chemistry. I think they're pretty other-centered. You have 2 really good, deep groups that are close to the line of scrimmage, and I think good football teams have leadership closest to the ball. And I think for Nebraska, it's their defensive line and their offensive line, and I think they both could boast playing 8, 9 guys in terms of that rotation. And so when the guys that have the most contact are the deepest and closest bunch, you give yourself a chance to have a pretty good football team.
Damon, can you speak on really fast the relationship that there needs to be between running back and offensive line in order to have a good running game? That's the one concern I have whenever you think of a running back by committee is there has to be that trust between an offensive lineman and a running back, understanding the running back's going to find the hole whenever you create one for him. But on the flip side, you also have to have that trust between running back and offensive line that whenever you get the handoff, there's going to be a hole there for you because the offensive line, the big uglies, are clearing space for you.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. It's kind of this symbiotic relationship, and they all have to kind of work together. That's why I like Nebraska's experience at both positions as an advantage, right? Gabe Ervin coming back, plenty of playing experience. Ramir Johnson, plenty of playing experience. Emmett Johnson's got a year under his belt. Dowdell, he's kind of the newest face of the bunch, but, got a few touches in Oregon. But I think the way that you combat that, Elijah, is reps. And they spend a ton of time with each other. And we've proven. Remember Anthony Grant right after Coach Barthel got him after spring, and we saw him early, and we're like, if I was going to make a poll of the running back that came the furthest from where the last time we saw him, you could make the case it was then Anthony Grant. And so I know Coach Barthel can develop. I have complete trust in those guys in terms of understanding the offense. They do get some experience back with Ramir and Gabe, and it's got a chance to be a really good fit with a big, strong, experienced offensive line.
That O-line will need to open holes in the run game.
They got to run it better, right?
Yeah, you go run it.
You rushed for 176 yards a game last year, and you only have 16 rushing touchdowns. Right? That's conversely, Michigan ran for 169 a game, but they had 40. So you can't have that kind of disparity. You've got to find ways to have rushing touchdowns.
You do, and that can get better because of your passing game.
100%.
Let's get into the quarterback.
Get guys out of the box, right?
Let's get into the quarterback part of things, and we talk about Dylan and Harburg and Kalen, right? Got to include all three. But with Dylan,
you've been around Coach Rhule a while, haven't you?
with Dylan, though, I mean, just the simple part of not being so bad or being more consistent on offense. Talk to me a little bit about what you envision Nebraska's passing game.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely get vertical. They will take their shots in the passing game. You have 3 tremendous tight ends in Fedoni, Borkacher, and Lindemeyer as well. Depending on how you want to use Bonner, the fullback tight end, wide receiver spot, gives you another experienced pass catcher. So when you look at Nair and Banks, you can really get excited about balancing out, and I don't want to be remiss and leave out my guy Jalen Lloyd. You can begin to get excited about the arm talent with Dylan Raiola. If Nebraska holds true to form a year ago, where they were top 4 in the Big Ten Conference in terms of time protecting the quarterback. I mean, our quarterbacks had time to get rid of the ball last year. Again, Nebraska top 4 in the Big Ten Conference. You allow yourself to kind of go there emotionally. Hey, this team can get vertical in the passing game. The infamous line this spring, like, we'll kill you. If you want to play 1 high 8 in the box from Coach Rhule, where it does get a lot easier to run the ball when you can count the numbers in the box. If I can count between 7 and 8, sometimes Nebraska would see 9, and you're like, this is impossible. They don't have enough bodies. So I think it's interesting how, and we heard our 3 representatives here today. I think all 3 somehow referenced their wide receiving core.
They did.
I know Gift did. Ty Robinson did in terms of how they're stressed on defense in terms of getting after the passer. And Ben Scott said, oh, my gosh, with these young guys, like, we're definitely deeper. And you pit that again with an arm talent. I just don't think you can play crowding the box because Nebraska has the opportunity to make teams pay.
Damon, as we talk about the wide receivers here, let's spend a moment on your guy, Jalen Lloyd. And also, I don't want to leave Malachi Coleman out of the conversation either. Both guys that I think can take strides this year. And that's kind of where I want to go with this, the strides they need to take. Because I'm not sure if you've been playing the new NCAA football game. A lot of Husker fans have been winning a lot of Heismans with Jalen Lloyd. That speed, run him on a deep route with a single high safety.
It's already
it's a touchdown
in the NFL from juniors team.
Yeah. But what I'm asking here, video games aren't real life. He's got the athletic potential. You can see that in the game. What does the next step look like for him this season? And I will add Coleman to the conversation as well.
Yeah, so I think for both it's similar. And we saw a lot from Jalen this spring where his route running has become so polished. Like those digs where he threatens you thinking he's going to take you deep, or those post corners where he's just becoming – he made a couple of really nice traffic catches where he used his hands, getting them away from his body. So it's little things like that. We know he can blow the top off this thing, but his ability to stem you, straighten you up, get in and out of breaks, and use his hands, I think, is the next part of his growth. And that goes for Coleman as well. But – again, they're showing me so much last spring in terms of this past spring, I should say, in terms of being a polished route runner. You can already tell Coach McGuire's earning his keep.
Damon Benning with us, Hurrdat Sports, and you catch him 7 to 10 weekday mornings in Omaha and across the state of Nebraska. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. And when we look at Nebraska's schedule and zoom out, games you're truly worried about, games you're comfortable with, maybe a couple on each side of the scale.
Well, I tell you, that comfortable word is tough. But I'll be mature enough for the conversation.
More coin flips or no?
For the conversation, Utah I'm comfortable, or UTEP I'm comfortable with, right? Mm-hmm. That's one you got to go get. I'll give you a coin flip game, and I know Nebraska fans aren't loving it, but the line would tell me I'm correct. Nebraska's less than a touchdown fave against Colorado when they come to town in week 2, and I think that becomes the first must-win game for Nebraska. I'm looking forward to, just because of the backdrop, and I hate to fast forward to the last game of the year, but just imagine Iowa City with a meaningful game to play, whether it's to get to 8 wins or to get bowl. Well, hopefully it's not to get bowl eligible, because Nebraska's anxiety will be through the roof. But a 6:30 night game in Iowa City for a chance to be in a meaningful discussion late in the year, I would love. Is it possible to beat Wisconsin and Iowa in the same year?
Not even Kirk with splitting, but get them both?
Listen, it has been like seeing a unicorn. It is a.
You got to go back to 11, don't you?
Yeah, it's incredible, and so, for Nebraska, those are the games we got, and they have some tricky ones too. I'll be curious with what Indiana brings to the table, because they have
too for me.
Oh, listen, that's the most dangerous. We go back and forth on the morning show. I still can't believe Rutgers' win total is so low. I think it's 6.5.
You're a pain.
And is it 5.5? Yeah, that's incredibly low. And I'm telling you, this is a good Rutgers football team. It is they're battle tested. They're very good defensively, and their special teams are lights out. It sounds like that team down the road in Iowa City.
It's Damon Benning with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. And Damon, before we get you out, a quick note from Matt Rhule in one of his breakaway sessions. Coach Ron Brown will be back as a full-time assistant coach this year, coaching fullbacks and returners. Your thought on Coach Ron Brown back in an on-field role?
Yeah, I'm happy. I may have had a little insight to that, considering a guy formerly of my own household, he's now in Lincoln, was receiving quite a bit of instruction from Coach Brown as a punt returner. So it's been that way all spring and summer. So I felt like that kind of could be a thing, and especially with the unlimited coaching staff now, that was well within the scope of the possibility. But that's good news.
He's too valuable to not use.
Yeah, it's good news for Nebraska. I'm happy about that.
Damon, as we wind it down, what is on the agenda this evening? Is it steaks? Is it seafood? Is it? What's on the docket?
It's going to be something good. I'm a big TikTok guy, so I've been following this guy with the top 38 places to eat in Indianapolis. He just happened to be doing it.
Okay.
And so
for you,
I'm gonna narrow it down here. Not see what the crew wants to do. I would prefer something lighter than heavier, because I've and this is not a humble brag. I love my own steaks. So I am a lot less. You and I have had this conversation. I don't know if it's over text or
we're both right.
Yeah,
that no one can do steaks better than we can.
That's kind of how we feel.
Except our friends. It's down the road here.
Yeah.
that do fillet incredibly well.
So I'm kind of thinking, I don't really want to do a steak. I'll do something light. So I'm leaning towards more
Filet can be light if you go with the 8 ounce.
I tell you what, if I'm eating beef, I'm going ribeye or bust.
Okay.
I leave the fillets to the little guys.
A man after my own heart.
I just got put in a headlock. Yeah. Damon, you be good. Thanks so much.
Hey, anytime.
Appreciate you and
I
Robbie.
think the word of you.
We'll be back with you. Hail Varsity continues, powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. As senior defensive lineman Ty Robinson with us here, Radio Row in Indy. And Ty, good to spend a few minutes with you. We've had a chance to take a look at the schedule. We've had a chance to take a look at some of the national buzz. You've had a chance to take a look at the cuisine in Indy. How was your Tuesday night?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I didn't realize everyone from the Big Ten was staying at the same hotel, so when it was coming down, we were going to get some lunch real quick, and I just see Penn State right there in front of me. Oh, hey, how's it going? Tuesday night was good. They treated us right. Went out to a nice dinner, and here we are. All
right. Well, the decision to come back and then to be asked to be here, what's that mean?
It means a lot to me, to know that Coach Rhule, looks at me as, a guy that's capable of coming here, especially after coming back, and, is willing to put me, I guess, on the face for, to represent Nebraska along with Isaac and Ben. So it definitely means a lot to me.
It's Ty Robinson with us here from Big Ten Media Days out at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. And Ty, one of the things we talked about with Isaac was all the returners that there are on defense this season and the confidence that instills, guys that you've played with for a long time. You kind of see that a little bit in the Chasing 3 episode that dropped last night, as there were some comments from you about playing alongside Jamari Butler. I just want to get your thoughts on what it's like to return this many guys on defense. You've had a chance to play with them in the spring, now work through them in the summertime. A lot of familiar faces out there. What kind of confidence does that instill?
Yeah, I think our defense has gained that confidence through spring and this summer especially. The summer has been hard, but I think just the mentality that us seniors and us older guys wanted to come out of this, as we have a bunch of younger guys that are going to have to play some pretty big roles for us and fill in. I think we're pretty happy with where that's at.
Do you have fun in this defense?
So much fun. It's a free flow defense. Just go out there. The best way D-line already as it is see ball, get ball type of deal. But with what Coach White calls for us, you can't really be wrong. He just wants you to go out there and be a playmaker, be a football player.
Ty, one of the things that I know this defense wants to work on here for 2024 to get better at is third down, getting off the field. What are some keys in your eyes from a defensive line standpoint? I know you want to get after the passer, make sure it's third and long as opposed to third and short, so you get that chance to really pin the ears back. But what are some keys in your mind for a defense getting off the field on third down?
Yeah, so like you said, you can't have it as third and short. Need to have it as third and long. So we've got to be able to stop the run. And I think that starts, with the keys that you see from the offensive line, where the running back's at in film. And then once you're able to get to that, third and long, you got to be able to pass rush and get to the quarterback. That's another main thing. A lot of us guys, I think last year, I think me and Nash worked pretty naturally off each other, but with 2 new edge guys, it took me a little bit to figure out how MJ was going to pass rush and how I could talk with him, and same with P. Will, and I think we finally got there this spring.
Ty, with that youth, let's spend a minute on just how they push you help them, that dynamic between old guard and young energy.
Yeah, they're asking me questions, that kind of have to keep me on my toes a little bit, to where I'm like, well, you should already know this, but you don't, because you're a young guy. A lot of them act like old guys. You wouldn't be able to tell that, they were a freshman or a sophomore, going into their sophomore year. I really look at our guys as the same level as me, and and I think that's the same. I think that's the thing with me, Nash, and Jamari, is that that standard that we hold in our defensive line room. Everyone has to hold it to that high standard, and I think just viewing it as all of us as old guys has helped us.
Does it help whenever you look at a young guy like Cam Linhart and say, wow, that guy looks like he has 3 kids and drives a minivan?
Yeah.
Wow. The minivan blast.
The minivan, I think, put it over. I'm going to tell him you said that.
The Woody Paddle minivan.
Yeah, no, I'm going to tell him you said that, and he's going to – that's funny.
He's probably going to kick my ass is what's going to happen.
Him coming in, I think he was probably the biggest shock to me. I mean, he was ready to play football, and, obviously there's always room for improvement, but he was definitely, determined when he got here to make some type of impact on the field, and I think he's done that.
Ty Robinson, a couple more minutes with us. Hail Varsity Radio. Here, Radio Row, it's Indy Day 2, Big Ten Media Days. So there's a lot of brotherly love with the program in Nebraska. Guys that have played here want to support the guys that are currently playing here. And we enjoy talking to some of the former guys and coaches. Tell me a little bit about guys that have mentored you, former teammates and former greats.
Yeah, so when I first got here, Darian Daniels kind of took me under his wing because I was just, they put me in at nose just to kind of get comfortable playing at the college level. And then when he left, Ben Stilley was a big mentor to me. He helped me more in the film room to try to understand how to break down film and what I'm really looking for and how to even, evaluate myself in practice and in games as well. And then one of the former players like Jay Foreman and Jason Peter were big impacts. A couple years ago, JP would be at practice with us, and he'd be in my ear every once in a while, just kind of telling me what I need to do. And I think from him was more of a mentality aspect of what it means to play D-line at Nebraska. And I took a lot of pride in that a former black shirt national champion defensive lineman wanted to come to me and help me out. And so I think that was probably the biggest takeaways I think I took from those 3 guys.
What kind of mentality do you have to play on the inside?
It's got to be mean, dirty, and gritty. I was just telling them over there that, if you're a nice guy on the D-line, you're just going to get pushed around, shoved around, and you're not going to make much of an impact out there. The thing is the offense has a play. They know what they're doing. And the defense, that means you've got to react. And sometimes you're taking on 2 blockers. Maybe you're taking on a polar, 1 block, whatever, and you just got to have that grittiness to get through it.
To play on the lines of scrimmage in the Big Ten, it's rough and tumble. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be pain, things you got to play through. You got to have a reason why. And to go back to the Chasing 3 episode, we got to hear the reasons why from Jamari Butler and Tommy Hill last night. What's your reason why? What makes football the sport for you? What keeps you going through it?
I think just the love that I have for it. And how much it's given me. I mean, in high school, I was just there to play ball, and I was told, listen, everything will come afterwards if you want to keep playing ball. And then, getting to finally find, because I played offensive line, tight end, defensive tackle in high school. So to finally find my identity and where I want to play, and that being defensive line, I think just fits me to who I am. Out there, it's fun to be aggressive and it's fun to be kind of a bully, or it's fun to be, mean and dirty and talk smack in the trenches.
Ty Robinson with us, Hail Varsity. Ty, we'll get you out on this. And who has pushed you and maybe pulled you a little bit or held you on the offensive side of the football that you go up against every day?
Yeah, so spring with Micah coming in from Florida, I made sure that I wanted to go against him just to kind of see what he was about, and he's the real deal. I'm really happy that he decided to come play for us, along with Bryce, who I came in with, Justin Evans. He's also a freaking fantastic guard. Ben Scott, who's here with us today. All 5 of those guys. Even their guys that come in after them. They are definitely making us better.
Ty, as we get you out here, I do want to say I got to put myself in a soapbox here. I was a professional for once. I did my research. I did my prep. I found an interesting story. I need to hear about it. Back in high school, you had a camel in your backyard?
Oh, yeah. I remember you saying that.
Yeah, I did. It was my neighbor's, and he just asked if he could keep it in our pasture. He just needed a little extra room for him. And so, yeah, I ended up I came home one day, and I looked back there, and I thought I hit my head or something because I was seeing a camel in my backyard. But, yeah.
Was he named Joe?
No, he was. I called him Calvin the camel, His real name was Humphrey. I did take him to school for Bring Your Pet to School Day. That was fun. He didn't make it very far, though.
Really?
Yeah.
So how did you get him? Did you throw him in the back of a pickup? I mean, how did that work? Would you ride him to school?
Yeah, so my neighbor, he brought him in his horse trailer. We parked in a little auxiliary lot, and he made it about 100 yards. I think someone was having practice out in our little auxiliary field, and I think they called my principal because she came around that corner mad. Everyone knew about him, though, so I thought everyone would enjoy seeing him for a little bit.
So you just showed up straight up for show and tell with Humphrey the Kemp.
Yeah, pretty much.
Did he leave a note or two?
No, thankfully he didn't. I didn't have to clean up after him, thankfully. He was only there for about 30 seconds.
So so is Humphrey still with us?
He is, yeah. No, he's a lot bigger now. My neighbor takes him out. He's pretty well known in Queen Creek, Arizona. He takes him, and he'll take him to this little olive like mill type of deal, and kind of just ride him around. You could ride him now. He was a baby when I had him. So.
Has he ever given you any attitude?
No attitude from me. I have a few pictures with him. He's a pretty good sport about it.
All right.
Well, you say you can ride him. Can you ride him? I know they say the old saying, the straw that broke the camel's back. What about the defensive lineman
I don't
that broke
know.
the camel's back?
I might be a hefty straw, but I think he'd be able to do it for at least a minute or two.
It's Humphrey's turn for a piggyback ride, I think. Ty, be good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So it's Ty Robinson with us out at Big Ten Media Days in Indianapolis. As promised, before we finish up with this segment, let's get to Matt Rhule's comments from the Pat McAfee Show on both Dylan Raiola and the rest of the quarterback room.
What I'll say is Dylan's done everything right since he's been there. And this isn't just coach speaking. I think again, if you truly believe that like you eat what you kill, like Dylan, he's competing with a guy last year that went 5-3 as a starting quarterback. That's runs 4.5. That got thrust into action last year. Now he's had another year. So my job is to get as many good guys as possible. We signed Danny Kalen, who's another Elite 11 quarterback. So I want those guys to compete. I mean, I want to find out, honestly, at every position. It sounds like I want to find out who, when they don't feel good in the middle of camp, still shows up. I want to find out who, when they get sent down to get the 3 reps that day, who pouts and who goes out and competes. And so I know our 3 guys are going to do that. But what I'll say about Dylan is, since he's been there, he's done everything right. Because, you get a highly recruited kid, and he comes from a great family. His dad played 14 years in the league, right, and was an O-lineman. So the concept of being selfless, of understanding the game like Dylan has, it's coursing through his veins. So he's not just a quarterback, he's a football player who plays quarterback, and I think the guys respect him. So I think we're going to have great competition. And if you want to play 16 games, if you want to go play for those trophies, probably going to play 2 at some point.
Yeah.
Think of how many times NFL teams have had a backup come in and keep them alive for 3 or 4 games. So
last year there was actually, I think, 90 backup quarterbacks or something like that that played around the NFL or something.
And you saw the Hard Knocks. You see them talking about the money they're going to pay a backup. Like, they're arguing about whether they should play Saquon Barkley 10 or 11 million, but backup quarterbacks who might not play are making 7, 8, 9, 10. So the position is so important. Let's get as many of them as we can.
We'll have Matt Rhule, more thoughts from him on the Pat McAfee Show a little bit later. But next, we'll have Ben Scott out at Big Ten Media Days here on Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Oscar Day continues. Big Ten Media Days in Indy. Ben Scott with us here on Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Ben, good to spend some time. Thanks for making time. How's your experience been here in Indy?
Oh, I think it's been great. It's a great place to be, and I think it's going to be a great day.
Well, Nebraska, a topic. We'll get into that in a moment, but did a lot of decision or indecision go into the appearance? Did you say, okay, man, it's time to dress to the nines? Was it a hard choice with the tie and the sport coat and all that stuff?
I went to Gary Michaels, and, they kind of picked everything out for me, and I think they did a pretty good job. I think I look pretty good.
Yeah. No, Uncle Nate's a dear friend, and he helps you do that, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's great.
So with the season upon us, just in short order, talk to me about the summer process, and as Isaac was telling us a little bit earlier, along with Ty, how hard has this summer been?
Oh, I think it's been the hardest summer I've ever had. And I think that Coach Campbell and his staff has done a great job of just putting all this hard stuff out there and having us do it. And, just have that mentality, just attack everything. And I think that's important for us, when it comes to the season, we have a tough opponent, we just go out there and we just attack. And I think that's important to build that in the offseason.
Ben, I know that in order to be a high-level football player, to be D1, you got to love the weight room, you got to love the work behind the scenes, but there's got to be some of those things where you see it on the schedule and you go, oh, we're doing that today. Like any lifts, any workouts that you look at that put a little bit of fear into your heart?
Oh, yeah. We've been doing a lot of stadiums this offseason, and that's something that's not a big guy activity. So, that was probably one of our more challenging things was doing the stadium. But, after a while, you just kind of just forget about it and you just see the stadium stairs. You're like, all right, here we go again. And you just got to put your head down and just start going.
Ben Scott's with us, year 6 for you. You come back, and who did you talk with? Who did you lean on for the decision?
Decision of?
To return to Lincoln.
Oh, yeah, I talked to my family. I talked to Coach Donnie, Coach Rhule. At the end of the day, we built so much last season, and I think that this next step into this next season, I think is going to be so huge, and I think coming back would have been in my best interest. And, Coach Rhule said, I'm welcome back, so, I didn't put too much thought into it. I just thought, I'm coming back for another year.
Let's talk a little bit about the quarterbacks, and you get to play and work with all 3 of them. And what's impressed you about the quarterback room in general?
Oh, yeah, all of them will come in every day and act like they're the starter. They're preparing every day in the film room, on the whiteboard, and they're all great leaders, too, in the weight room this offseason. They're all going in. They're being vocal leaders. They're working really hard, and I think that it's important to have that quarterback being a hard worker and be a vocal leader. And it's great to see all 3 of them really compete, and I think it'll be good whoever is out there.
Let's talk about your relationship quickly with Coach Don Raiola. As you look at it, do you think he treats the offensive lineman differently than he treats his nephew? Is he harder on the nephew? What does that look like?
Oh, I think he has a high standard for everyone, It doesn't matter if you're a receiver, running back, he's going to hold you to that standard, and that's really like what everyone needs. We have this high standard, and if you're slipping, Donnie's going to be the first one to go up there and correct you. So I think that he does a great job with that.
One of our friends on this show used to be Coach Mike Leach before he passed, and God rest his soul, but he dove into it one day with us, the art of swearing, that some people have it, some people don't, the ability to string off some swear words. Coach Donnie, whenever the media is there, you don't get to see that side of him, but I want to dive into it with you. Does he have the art of swearing down?
I don't think so. I think he gets on us pretty hard, but I don't think he has the art of swearing.
Does he have a look that makes you scared?
Oh, yeah. He'll sit there and he will hear everything and see everything, and if you're trying to cheat a rep or something, he's not having it. So, you got to be really bought in every day whenever he's around.
Ben Scott's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, media days here in Nebraska. So who in the locker room or on the offense is pretty good about policing the peers, the teammates? Are you one of the voices that folks respond to?
I think all the seniors in general. We even got some juniors and sophomores that are real vocal leaders, I think every position, it's hard to really be vocal to 140 guys or something. Mm-hmm. The amount that we have is insane, but we really try to break it up in position groups, and even we'll break it off into offense, defense, and we'll have the older guys be vocal, and even the quarterbacks will be vocal. So I think it's really important just be vocal with each other and hold each other to a high standard.
Ben, what do you think of the defensive line? Not only the Ties of the world, but also some of the young guys, Nash, just that group in general. How much do they push you? And in turn, what can that side of the ball do this year?
Oh, that side of the ball is going to wreak havoc for other teams. I can guarantee that. And, they really help us out every day in practice where it's iron sharpens iron every day. They're great, and we're working on our stuff. So, having them out there is real nice, going against them every day. And they have one speed on that side of the ball, so it really helps us bring that speed along with them because, it's easy to start slowing down and start second-guessing yourself, but when they're going one speed, you got to match it.
Ben, as we dive into the trenches here, obviously there's always going to be that competition between offensive line and defensive line. Let's say that you had to submit one challenger from the offensive line to take on a defensive lineman in the new NCAA football game. Which offensive lineman gets the sticks? Who are you trusting with that responsibility?
Oh, brother. I don't know if anyone's ready for that. I guess I'll go with Henry Letowski.
Okay.
He's pretty good. We'll go in the theater room and we'll put it on the big screen and we'll start playing. He's always doing pretty good for himself. So, yeah, I think I'll go with Henry.
Offensive line as a unit and with depth, how long this season can be. How comfortable do you feel about the options that will be on this offensive line?
Yeah, we got a lot of depth, and a lot of guys that are able to play. So I think, you might see a lot of guys playing this season, and I think they're all ready to go and all healthy, and, we're all attacking this offseason, so I think it'll be good.
What do you think the identity will be for the offense?
I think that, we're going to pound the rock, and then, that's always been our identity is pounding that rock into those big personnels. So, I think we're always going to do that. We could also air it out now. We got a bunch of weapons on the outside, so, and we got some quarterbacks that can really sling it. So, you might see a lot.
It's Ben Scott with us here. And Ben, as we get you out, it's an ongoing discussion we've had here on Hail Varsity Radio. We discuss wide receivers and defensive backs. They're both divas in their own rights. I don't want to put you on the spot here and call it into your teammates, but between the two, wide receivers or defensive backs, who are the bigger divas?
DBs, for sure. No question.
They don't like you guys getting your hands on them at that level, do they?
No shot. They'll do some weird stuff, and they'll slide around or dive at your ankles or something.
What's the weird stuff? That. Talk to me. What's weird? What's the weirdest thing you've seen somebody do in that second level, the defensive back?
I remember seeing one guy full on baseball slide just to avoid a block, and I'm just like, geez, there's just too much going on. They're diving at ankles and stuff, so they don't know what they're doing.
Ben Scott, Ben, take care, and thanks for taking time in Indy.
I appreciate it.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time here on a Wednesday, day 2 of Big Ten Media Days out in Indianapolis, Nebraska Day at Lucas Oil Stadium, as Matt Rhule, Isaac Gifford, Ty Robinson, and Ben Scott all making the rounds, including here with us on the show. If you missed any of those chats, you can check it out in podcast form wherever you get podcasts. Just search up Hail Varsity Radio and you should be able to find it. You can also check out the Hail Varsity YouTube page. That is just Hail Varsity on YouTube, and there you can find the full video versions of our interviews with those four. You can also find the full-length version of today's show and really any show that we put out here with Hail Varsity Radio. Before we get out here this hour, and just I guess I skipped over something here. Schmidt's on his way back from Indianapolis, so day 3 of Media Days will be going tomorrow. Schmidt will be back with us in studio tomorrow as we made it through Nebraska Days. He's trying to beat the rush out of Indianapolis. He'll be back with us tomorrow, and we'll get a little bit more into this, which is Matt Rhule's appearance on the Pat McAfee show. This aired a little bit earlier today, and some really interesting thoughts from Rhule. We'll start it off with Matt, his thoughts on the quiet confidence, the importance of quiet confidence, and the confidence that he sees within the team this year.
Yeah, I think whether it's rankings, whether it's guys on the all-conference team, all-American team, I've always believed, man, you eat what you kill. If you want recognition, then you've got to go do it. So the talking season is it's for the people, it's for the guys who won last year. Oregon comes into the league, and they're a top team in the country because they've earned it on the field. Washington played the national championship game. USC won 11 games 2 years ago, so people should talk about them. We haven't been to a bowl game in 8 years. And so as much as I want to be in the national picture, we also have to play a 13th game. And so I have no problem. Like I believe in humble confidence. I learned that from Tom Coughlin. Like I would love to just keep our guys right there, but that doesn't mean that we don't have confidence, and that doesn't mean that we don't expect to be a really good team. And I think people that are recruiting against us and preparing for us, I think they think we're going to be a good team too.
It's Matt Rhule on the Pat McAfee Show. One more thought here from Matt on his fit with Nebraska.
I don't know if I've ever stepped foot in the state of Nebraska.
They're crazy. College World Series?
Yeah, I've never been. I've heard.
Have you guys been to College World Series?
No, we're going next year. Okay. Rocco's, the whole thing. Yes. I get it. You guys are buying jelly shots. I get it. I've heard it's awesome. People have sang Nebraska's praises for sports fans in the women's volleyball thing. Like,
amazing. That was nuts.
Amazing. Like, it sounds awesome. But the way you talk and the way you describe what type of team you have, I assume that people in Nebraska respect it because they're high football IQ fan base out there in Nebraska.
Yeah, no doubt. They're football people. Like I was in Texas at a coach's clinic, and I saw a guy who's Nebraska alum, and he said, "Hey, can I put you on the phone with someone?" He put me on the phone with his 84-year-old mother in Lexington, Nebraska, and I'm talking to her on like the house phone, and she's like, "I watch every press conference, Coach. Keep doing what you're doing." Like, that's real.
Yes.
That doesn't happen everywhere. It's just, we don't have a pro team. This is the pro team. They're out there from the beginning of warm-ups to the end of the game, and at the end of the day, you said something very nice earlier, like, well, people are thinking Nebraska's be good because of me. I don't know that it's that. I think they see what it has been, and if you can get it on track, we have the facilities, we have the fan base. In this new Big Ten, we're in the middle of the country, so we're not going to have to travel East Coast to West Coast. We'll have manageable travel. We're good at a lot of sports. We won 5 Big Ten championships this year. We got 7 or 9 kids in the Olympics. Like, we have athletic excellence. If football gets itself together, we should be a powerhouse because we've been a powerhouse.
Yeah.
And so I looked at it like, man, like I went to Temple, I loved it. I love Temple. But I was trying to do something there that had never been done. I went to Baylor, and Coach Bryles had a lot of success and all that, but I was still trying to get it to a place that hadn't been. I walk by 5 natties every day.
Yeah, they're telling you.
That's right.
Hey, you need to get to. Hey, welcome to stay. Let's. You've done good. Yeah, we're proud of you.
Back tomorrow with more Hail Varsity 4 to 6.